Mr. Rosenbaum, who's led this with multiple groups, will now present on what we will be proposing in March. And again, remember, there's no vote today, but we wanted to be open so the board could have an opportunity to not only tonight look at the information, but maybe have follow-up questions in the days to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Proporce, and Treasurer Higley. As was just mentioned, I'm going to talk today about the annual right-sizing process. The title of this presentation is the 25-26 school year preliminary staff presentation. The reason I say that is because this is a rather extensive process. As Mr. Proporce just said, it takes everybody. We begin by kind of meeting with the principals. We meet with the school leadership, student services, curriculum, exceptional students, the treasurer's department, and then we also meet with ETA throughout the process, being our largest bargaining unit and having some contractual considerations not only for our ETA positions, but any bargaining unit position. So it's a rather extensive process. The first stage of that is simply just looking at student numbers, looking at the needs of our students, looking at various programming, as was mentioned in the presentation prior to this. We look at what type of courses we want to offer, whether that be at the high school, middle school, or elementary level, and then the number of sections that we need for those. In the previous presentation, we heard a lot about the least restrictive environment and the continuum of services committee work that's been completed. We take all that into consideration, and really the idea is to support student needs. Throughout this presentation, we'll look at where we will go up certain positions and we might go down certain positions. So we talked about like the autism learning centers, where we might be going up or down in any various area. Just keep in mind that's to support the students. So that's really where we begin, is looking at student numbers. There's a lot more that goes into that. It's not simply saying, hey, we have, 300 fifth graders, so that means we need this many teachers. It really is more extensive. It's what programs and what supports, or where do they fall on that continuum of service, whether that be exceptional students all the way up through honors, gifted, that sort of thing. So it really is a process of looking at student needs. When we begin looking at the number of students, we also look at class sizes, we look at intervention specialist caseloads, and we look at the various learning centers and what's appropriate for the capacity of those various class sizes and caseloads. So on this slide here, and you can follow along either in the presentation or I gave you a separate document. It might be a little bit easier to read the numbers on the second document. What we're looking at are class sizes for kindergarten. First through fifth grade is at 22, kindergarten at 20. We look at the middle school, where we have class sizes set at no greater than 22 using a TEAMS model. At the high school level, we have 24 students per class. And then looking at interventions caseloads, which are really set by the state, and then various learning centers and what the maximum student capacity is for those classes. Just because there's a maximum student capacity doesn't mean that we're maxing out every class, and I would highlight that most of the numbers on this screen, especially regarding our general education class sizes, are far below contractual limits. And in addition, we leave space for students that might be in a learning center. They also have a seat in a general education classroom, so that's factored in there as well. What I did was I went through a slide for each building. Again, on the left side, you're going to see kind of what's changing at each grade level. On the right side, you'll see a summary and other considerations such as retirements, resignations, or various positions that might have been open this past school year even. To read the table, you could flip in this separate packet, and the numbers are just a little bit bigger. Looking at Arbor, based on student numbers, we'd be going down a first grade teacher and up a fifth grade teacher and up a general intervention specialist. We do have one retirement from a title teacher position, which currently is supporting literacy or math needs and implementing interventions for those. Again, when we think of up and down, I wouldn't think of it as a positive or negative. It's all just based on student need. For example, the intervention specialists there, the Department of Exceptional Students and the team here have looked at what do we expect in terms of student numbers, what are we projecting for next year at that building. Where we can make really accurate predictions, we do. So if we have, let's say, just making this number up, but 100 students in first grade this year, we anticipate having 100 students in second grade next year, unless there's some type of element that we need to factor in. Some of those elements, for example, might be the ELV going down third grade. So we look at the third grade positions, we look at second grade students, and we look at where their home boundary school is to determine what building do we anticipate that they'll end up at and what grade. So that varies per building, and that's where a little bit of fluctuation comes in, but again, we do our best to make our solid predictions on where that will end up. At the bottom of each table, you'll see a total row. You can see the total for this school year, the total for next school year, and then if it's essentially going up by the building or down by the building. For Bluestone, we're going up a fourth grade teacher, down a general intervention specialist, and we have one retirement from a title position as well. At Chardon Hills, we'd be going down a general intervention specialist with no other changes. At the Early Learning Village, we would be going up a first grade teacher, up a second grade teacher, down 2 third grade teachers, and that would be with the elimination of third grade at the ELV. Up 3 autism learning centers, and down 1 ED learning center at the Early Learning Village. So again, as we talk about the increase of serving students with autism, we have that increase there for those autism learning centers. In addition, we factor into the students leaving from, if they're leaving from kindergarten to first grade, preschool to kindergarten, and then here we had to factor in the students who are leaving third grade and the students that are currently in second grade going back to their boundary school. For Shoreview, we have down a first grade teacher, 1 retirement from a technology teacher position, another retirement from a second grade position, and 1 resignation from a current ED learning center. For Euclid Middle School, we have down the middle school career counselor, down a social studies teacher, a science teacher, an English teacher, down an ED learning center, a cross-categorical learning center, an autism learning center, and 1 retirement from an ELA position. Those first 3 bullets are essentially going down a half a team. We would still keep in place our interventions for English and math, so that's why you don't see a math teacher listed there. We have 2 currently math essentials and reading essential teachers that we have at the middle school that implement various tier 2 and tier 3 interventions for both math and ELA. So those supports would still be in place. And again, it's based on student numbers. So we're able to take the 7th and 8th grade, one of the 7th and 8th grade teams, and split that as a 7th and 8th grade mixed team. For Euclid High School, just due to the number of positions, we have the table on one slide indicating the number of positions for the 24-25 school year, and then the projections for 25-26 along with the changes. If you'd like to look at that table, or if you want to look at the summary of bullets, I'm just going to go through the summary here. We would be going down a CTE counselor position, up a down a half CTE coach, up a half CTE criminal justice. So currently the criminal justice CTE program is a senior-only program. This would bring it back to a full program, 2-year program. Down a half education profession CTE teacher. So this would be essentially the phasing out of the Education Profession CTE program. This is partly based on student interest, and these changes are coming as a result of us becoming our own comprehensive CTE program in the coming years. The education program currently has juniors in it, so what we're doing is we are ensuring that we're kind of seeing them through the program next year when they're seniors. Down the landscape CTE position, that's currently a senior-only credential position. Down an ED intervention specialist position. Down a PACE Lab intervention specialist position, which is essentially a general intervention specialist position. One retirement from a business technology teacher position. Down a science position. Down a general intervention specialist position. And I apologize, but this is a typo here, the down mathematics position. That should be removed from the bullets, both on the slide and on the a separate sheet. Down English language arts. Up a half CT Shark Tank position, which was approved at the previous board meeting. We have another retirement from a business teacher position, a retirement from a science teacher position. There's a current position that's split, general intervention specialist, half between the high school and half between the Memorial Option Center. We would eliminate that half at the high school, and then you'll see that come up later at the Memorial Option Center. And then we also have a general intervention specialist currently that's a long-term sub, so essentially think of that as kind of a retirement. At the Memorial Option Center, which I also included Thrive on this slide, currently we have the 4.5 intervention specialists serving the various programs that run through Memorial Option Center. We would be going down that half that correlates with that half that spends their time at the high school. And then from a district-wide positions, we have listed quite a few there. I'll just make a note, we're going up a secondary career readiness counselor. That relates to going down a counselor at the middle school. It's just a change of position where we'll be serving the secondary campus. In addition, there's quite a few positions that you see there that serve our population of exceptional students. You'll notice that there's no changes and that there's some numbers that you may have not have seen in the past. That is a reflection of us supporting the various programs such as JTC and our students with exceptional needs. For example, BCBA support our learning centers, not only autism, but all of our learning centers with various behavior needs and implementation of the TEACH method and things like that. On the right side, you'll see some other positions. Again, not all of these throughout our ETA positions. This is across the district in general. You'll see that we're going down a registration specialist, a student wellness coordinator, and up an assistant director of student services. And then on the last slide, we have retirements, resignations, and open positions. I included this slide just to show, while we hear up and down and we think of staffing, again, it's not a negative. Down doesn't mean negative. It just means we're putting that person where our students' needs are, or where our greatest needs are, where our programming calls for. With all of these changes, I don't foresee that many people, if any, will actually lose their job with the district. Now that really is all related on licensing, and that's the next part of this. Is we go through seniority lists for the various bargaining units. We look at what type of licensing each person has. For example, we go through the reclassification, and then we go through the bid day process. So this is really the start of the whole process in general, but determining what positions support our students and support our needs is the starting point in looking at that. Again, with all of these changes up here, where these people are either retiring or it could just be a vacant position currently, assuming licensing works out, I don't foresee anyone being out of a position. Very few, if any.
No, go ahead, you finish. I'm sorry.
Okay, and I'll take questions.
What I think you were just saying is, like, for example, under the high school, if we're down a science teacher, but there is also a retirement, then we have an available position. Is that right? Are those equal?
Essentially, what that means is we wouldn't be removing anybody from a current science position.
Okay.
It would just be a wash.
Okay, that's what I want, that's what I was hoping you were gonna say.
Yeah.
But do keep in mind, it is a position. We're gonna have
Right.
one less teacher in the science department. I don't know if it's science, so sorry.
No,
But-
I'm just.
but
One of them
yes,
is
okay,
science.
yes, yeah.
Okay, and then I'm curious about,
Well, let me just finish answering that real quick too. I
Sure.
just want to
Sorry,
make sure
my
everyone's
fault.
clear. So while it always might not be that clean, where it's a science teacher and we have a science retirement, there might be an example where we're going down, let's say an English teacher, that's a bad example because there is an English retirement as well, but we're going down some position and that license might not perfectly line up, or that teacher who's currently holding that position has another license and there's another position that could be filled. That's the same thing, but it might not be as clear cut as this is, there's a retirement in the science department sort of thing.
so then my other question was about the CTE counselor. Has it been determined that that workload would be distributed among the 4 other high school counselors? Or how would students go through that process of exploring and being introduced to the CTE program?
Oh, so we've looked at a couple of different ideas and strategies to look at that. First, we looked at that change from the counselor to the secondary position. We looked at an assistant principal really taking on that role of being almost like a CTE coordinator, overseeing that program, which we've somewhat done in the past. This would just make it more official.
Thank you. And then I can follow up other questions when I look at it further.
With regards to the eliminating of the third grade classrooms at the EOV, can you give some data around why that's being done? Because I know the initial plan was to expand that program to all elementary grades. So I'm just curious as to why now third grade is being eliminated when it was just put in.
So to my understanding, it was essentially left in to guide the students.
I can answer this question.
Oh.
What happened is when we put out the letters to enter the lottery and the recruitment, we said we were gonna have a third grade. This was several years ago. We should not have put that statement in there. So when the current kids that are now in third grade, we felt it was important to keep third grade one more year because we had told them that it would go up to third grade.
When they chose it initially.
When they chose it initially, but the plan was a pre-K to 2 and then make that a little bit more full. I think this will also help round out the distribution of children in the other elementaries to try to make them similar in size. We still seem to have a little bit of problem with Shoreview predominantly being the smallest elementary. So there will be, I'm not saying a lot, but there will be kids returning to Bluestone. Bluestone's the smallest elementary. Returning to Bluestone because now the third grade kids will be dispersed.
Okay.
Does that help? So the reason we kept it this year is because we did send a letter saying we'll be up to third grade, and then we didn't think that was right to then tell parents, no, we're not doing it.
So the plan is no longer to expand the literacy program to all grades, because I thought that's what we were attempting to do when we first put it in.
The pilot out of the ELV will expand out to the other elementary buildings, like the things that they are doing
But
there.
it won't be housed at the ELV.
Yeah, we want the things that are happening, like the science of reading and the things we're doing, it has expanded out to the other elementaries, but I'm not prepared to fully answer that question,
Okay.
but I can definitely get you an answer on
Thank you.
how we've done on taking what we've piloted at ELV and expanding it out to the rest of the district.
Thanks.
I think that was but we will get you an answer on that.
That was my only question.
Okay.
Mr. Batsky?
Nothing at this time from me.
Mrs. Osu? I don't have any questions at this time either. Thank you, Tim.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.